Hey guys, it's Jake here with eTrailer. Today we have a 2019 Jeep Cherokee and we're going to be taking a look at and I'm going to show you how to install the Roadmaster Direct-Connect Baseplate for flat towing. Adding a baseplate to the front of your Jeep Cherokee is going to allow you to safely flat tow it behind your motorhome when you're headed down the road on your trips. The Direct Connect style, I really like it because you can remove these tabs at the front of your baseplate so that whenever you're not flat towing your Jeep, there's nothing on the front of your vehicle. This baseplate is going to have two tabs here that you can self-tap your 6-pole plug right up to it. This is going to be handy for your diode wiring, to get your lighting signals to the back of your vehicle, and for a charge line if you want to put it in the center pin of this so that your motorhome is charging your vehicle when you're flat towing it down the road. Another thing that you will get, you're going to get a tab to mount your breakaway switch to, so that in the case of an unlikely disconnect, you can this plunger will be pulled and it has a nice safe mounting place for it to pull from. You're going to have integrated safety cable tabs that you can tie or just attach your safety cables directly up to. It's easy to get to. It's nice and concealed inside this opening. You will notice you do have to do a little bit of modifications to the front of the vehicle, but that is going to be the case with any flat towing, pretty much any flat towing component that you're going to put on this car. Now, as far as the installation goes, as I said before, you are going to have to do a little bit of trimming. That part's really not that bad. I'd say the hardest part about this is going to be removing the front fascia of the car. But again, with any baseplate that you're going to put on a Jeep Cherokee, you're going to have to remove the baseplate or the front fascia. So I wouldn't worry about that particular part of it. But the one thing I will say that is more challenging about this particular baseplate, which I don't mind doing the extra work because I know it's going to be more stable, is that you're going to have lots of reinforcing brackets that will go behind and attach to the frame rail so that you have that reinforcement when you're pulling it down the road. But if you don't feel confident doing this yourself, please check out our dealer locator. You can find a dealer nearest you that can do this install and all your other flat towing components together. But with that being said, let's go ahead and take it inside and show you how I did it. To begin our installation, we're going to have some fasteners up underneath our hood that we're going to have to remove. We need to get this plastic panel off, and we're going to show you the one side and then it'll be the same on the other, and that's going to be through this whole installation. We'll show you one side and just repeat it on the other side. So starting here at the top, these push pin style fasteners, you just want to pop out the center using a flathead screwdriver, and then usually you can pull this up with your fingers and then just pop out the base. We'll have this one here, then we're going to have another one here, one further back, and then down on the front part of that plastic, we're going to have three. 1, 2, 3. Just do that same process to get all these removed. Once you get all your fasteners out, this was our last one here, we're just going to go through, make sure that this, we'll have to pull it out over top of those little stops there. And it's just clipped in very loosely behind the headlight. We'll take this and set it to the side. Next thing we need to do is underneath our vehicle, we're going to have a lot of 10mm screws that we'll have to take out to get this panel down. So just work your way along this front edge, get those out, and then there's some throughout this field here that we'll have to also take out. Once you get all the screws removed, we're going to set this panel to the side. Now you're going to want to grab a 1/4-inch drill bit. We have these 3 rivets here on the bottom. They're aluminum rivets. We're just going to take our 1/4-inch drill bit, drill right through them, and that's going to detach our fascia from this wheel well liner. You're just going to snap the head off like that. The little base is still going to be in there. We're just going to take this, push it up through it, and then the base of the rivet's out. We'll do the same thing for these other 2 and on the other side. Once you get those rivets out, this piece may just fall right out for you. If it doesn't, you can slide towards the center of the vehicle and that'll unclip this little latch. We'll set this aside, we'll put it back on later on. Now we're going to want to take a T30 Torx bit. We'll have a screw right here that's holding this part of our fascia on. We'll just pop this out. Now in our wheel wells, we're going to need an 8mm socket and a small ratchet, and then a flathead screwdriver for some more push pin fasteners. We're going to have 2 push pin fasteners, one up high, one right below it, and then your next 2 are going to be those 8mm bolts. Let's take that socket, get those removed. Now we've got those fasteners removed. I taped off our fascia here. I taped off this part of the fender also so that because we're going to go pull this plastic piece off, we don't want anything on that plastic to scratch our paint. So tape off this joint here and then along this edge, and we can grab this plastic piece. You want to pop it out of the bottom. There's a little tab down here. If you just pull out, usually if you get one of these to release, then the rest of them come out a little bit easier. Just be really, really sure that you do not bend this black plastic piece, because what happens when you bend it, it turns white and it'll leave a white crease on it, and we don't want that to happen. If you get up to this point, this fastener appears a little bit stronger, so you may need a trim panel tool or something like that to be able to get back in here and help you pry back. There we go. And that is enough room for us to be able to pull this back, and we can get to the 10mm bolt that's right here that we're going to need to remove to be able to separate our fascia. Now with an extra set of hands, we've got Tom here helping us take this fascia off. You can do it by yourself, but it's very difficult and you may end up damaging something or scratching something. So if you got a friend or a neighbor that you can have over to help you take this off, it's much easier. Once we get these clips taken off back here, the rest of it's really not too bad to get unclipped. We'll just pull. There's little clips along the edge here that we'll just release. Depending on how long your fascia's been on, our car's about 5 years old now, so we're about 6 years old. It may be a little bit more difficult and you may have a bigger risk of breaking these, so just be careful. On the driver's side, you're going to have this big clip. That's our wiring harness. Pop that little yellow tab. Then we're just going to take this red part, pinch in a little bit on each side. This plastic will pull back and release that plug. Now we're just going to take our fascia and set it in a safe place. Now we're going to take a 15mm socket, and we need to remove the 3 bolts from each of these bumper horns here. And then we're also going to need to remove the 4 bolts out of our bumper beam. We're going to be taking these off, and we will not be reinstalling them. Now we're going to remove the bumper beam. Once we get those retainers off, we'll set our bumper beam off to the side. Now we're going to take a 10mm socket, and on the passenger side we have to take this nut off to be able to get this air box out of here. This is just going to give us a little bit more room to work. So we'll just pull this out. We should be able to pull it down a little bit. Got a little rubber grommet back in here that's still holding on. So what I did is I sprayed a little bit of silicone on the end of that little rubber pin to pull it out of that holder. Now up in our engine bay, we do have one more pin we're going to have to release in order for our air box to come down. And it's right inside here. It's kind of hard to see. But we've got this pin, we got to pop the center of it out so that we can remove it. So we'll just take a trim panel tool or a flathead screwdriver and get this removed. This is what that push pin's going to look like. It's very difficult because it barely has a shoulder for you to be able to get the trim panel tool around. I just used a flathead screwdriver, grab this one edge and try to pry it out, and then you can pop this whole thing out. With that pin out of the top, we can take this air box and get it out of our way for now. Now we can put our base plate up into place. We're going to put it up where our bumper horns were. Take the bolts that we took out there, put some red Loctite on it. You will have to pick that up separate. We've got some on our website if you want to just add that on. Put our bolts in place, and then we can put the 2 on the bottom. Now we're going to get some hardware prep so we can put our bumper beam back up into place. We get this spacer that comes in our kit to make up for the thickness of our base plate down below. It's going to go up top on our bumper beam. It's going to go behind it, obviously. It'll have a hole to accommodate for that stud that's sticking out. We'll just line this up so we can lift it up into place. Your bolt, you're going to want to take this collared bolt with a split lock washer and then a flat washer on it. I'm just going to set it somewhere for now set it right there. So we get this lifted up into place. This is much easier to do if you have somebody on the other side doing that for you. Get that lined up. You may have to push back on the base plate a little bit. Your goal here is to get all those holes to line up so that we can get our bolt in place. You also want to put a little bit of red Loctite on it when you put this in. Now what we ended up having to do is we use this little pry tool. You could probably just use a screwdriver too. We stuck it in one of these holes and then we just pried over in order to get our holes to line up better. Got one bolt in, and then we can take our other one and slide it into place. Now we're going to take a 17mm socket and snug all these bolts down. Now we're going to have this angled bracket that comes in our kit. It's going to have a slit in the middle of it, and that's designed to straddle this pinch weld. Up in our frame rail here, or our unibody frame, we're going to have two weld nuts that are on the inside of the frame. You can see I've got the bolts in there already. You want to put a split lock washer and a flat washer on each one of them. Put a little red Loctite, run those up in there. And then down here, you'll notice that there's a hole in the bottom of the bracket. This is just designed to stiffen this whole front end to make it a little bit more rigid to pull from. We're going to have to take a bolt and put it in this lower hole too. We'll take a 17mm socket. We're going to snug down that bottom one, and then we can come back now that our bracket is flat up against here and tighten these two. Now, on the driver's side, there's going to be a washer fluid reservoir in the way, so you just kind of have to sneak the bracket up past it and then try to get your hand up in there in order to put the bolts in place. Now, the next step, we're going to take the long, big bolts that come in your kit, put some red Loctite on it. We'll need a 19mm socket, a 12-inch extension, and then on the inside of this hole, you're going to see, or this opening, you're going to see a hole at the very back. This bolt has to go through that hole. And this is going to kind of just be a guessing game. Line the bolt up with that hole. You'll see it start to come through on the back side. We'll grab it with our fingers, pull it all the way through. And then what I like to do is try to find the bolt to where, with the edge of the socket, because we have a deep well socket, find the edge of it, push tight on the end, and then now we can put our washers and our nut on it. We're going to do a flat washer, a lock washer, and a nut. Now we're going to go through and torque down all of our hardware to the specifications in the instructions. Now once we've got all our components mounted up on our vehicle, we can turn our attention to the fascia. We need to do some modifications so that it fits back on the vehicle with our base plate installed. This is the bottom of our fascia right here. We need to remove the two lower louvers, or the shutters, by just prying out on that and pulling out towards the center of the vehicle. You may have to pry on the tab in the middle too. Pop those out. We're just going to remove this one and then the one right next to it. Now we need to mark out these tabs here. They're on the ends of our louvers. We're just going to use a Dremel or a multi-tool in order to cut these out. Now on the front side of our fascia, we're going to have these openings here that have these little ribs in it. We need to cut that out so that it makes room for our base plate to stick through. All I'm going to do is just take my multi-tool here and follow along this edge here, and then follow that up and along the whole outside edge there. Now with our fascia lifted back up into place, we found our holes were exactly where we needed them to be. These two prongs from our base plate, if you've got those, you shouldn't have to drill those out. They should stick right out between these. And then we just drill the hole for the back of our 6-bolt. Other than that, we'll just go ahead and put all our fasteners back where they came from. Now your kit's going to include plastic rivets to replace the ones we drilled out here on the bottom. You're going to have to get yourself a rivet gun or a plastic rivet gun, or you can go to your local auto parts store. They might have one that you can rent. So we'll just take our rivets, gonna push them up in here, and this is gonna work just like a normal rivet gun. Usually you pump it twice and then it's going to pop that into place. We'll do the same thing for the other two. Well guys, hopefully this video helped you decide whether or not the Roadmaster Direct-Connect Baseplate is right for you in your 2019 Jeep Cherokee.